This is my live mashup rave centre, comprising of laptop, Dope Raver work with 24 faders, custom painted by yours truly. That one doesn't do anything. A little keyboard here for playing in synth bass lines, various things. You can make kind of acid riffs and so on. This, the keen-eyed amongst you will realise is a Korg Chaos Pad, but I've kind of butchered it a bit, and I've turned it into a sort of multi-zone touch controller using a little patch I wrote in Reactor, but it's now works as a crossfader with assignable bits. And this is my laptop keyboard, which is also decorated with meaningless coloured buttons, but I use this for mashing up all my breaks and bass lines and my voice and anything else that might happen in a typical gig scenario. Here is a bank of 60 knobs. That's at the moment that only actually controls the assignable effects, but I use this for sort of horribly unearthly reverb style algorithms to make things sound odd. All these controllers are going in over, well, that one is going in on USB, that goes straight in USB, and I've got a MIDI Man 4x4 MIDI Sport interface. That goes in on MIDI, that goes in on MIDI, and that goes in on MIDI. So, Reactor 5. This is obviously running Reactor 5. I've been using it for roughly a year now, it was about a year ago that I started getting involved with Native Instruments. I sent them some of the patches that I'd been working on and some of my music, and they were really keen. So since then I've been doing some content programming, including samples I did some samples for Battery, but most of my work has been for Reactor 5. I've programmed an ensemble called Vectory, which is for mashing up breaks and jamming and so on. And I've also done some modules in using the new Reactor Core technology, which I think is amazing. It's just it kind of makes Reactor a completely new program altogether, because you can totally program your own audio engines. I mean, one of the things I worked on first in Reactor 5 was programming my own granular synthesis, granular sampling and synthesis engine for sort of live granular work. And since then I've worked on various other bits, and in fact when I first got hold of Reactor 5, one of the first things I did was reprogram the live patch I was using to make it a lot more efficient, and actually managed to knock off to knock the CPU load down to half of what it actually was running in normal Reactor, and also just a lot of the features worked so much better. Another cool thing about Reactor 5 is the graphics modules, which now I haven't really got in depth with them too much. People like Lazyfish have really gone right in there and done it, but they're really, really powerful, and you can kind of make your own completely interactive, environments. But having said that, my game is more about physical interaction with Reactor. So although they're useful, I much prefer to interact with Reactor using a physical interface that actually has a physical feedback and knobs you can pick up and go with. Do you know what I mean? Okay, this is my patch in Reactor 5. The structure is, relatively simple. You've got various different instruments here. So you've got the transport, which you can see the bars going through there, so you can change, say, the number of beats in a bar, or you can change the number of bars to a cycle. Beneath that you've got the 4 channel players, which I will demonstrate to you forthwith. Then under here you've got the crossfader, which works like a lighting box crossfader, so you can assign different channels to each side of the crossfader and then crossfade between them. And then here you've got the little a little synth, which you can just use to play in different notes and loop the MIDI sequences and then play around with them like an acid bass line. Okay, so this is how I mash up the rhythmic content of samples I've loaded in. For example, breaks like, which you might have heard before. We've got various buttons. The 4 buttons here. Oh, sorry, 7 buttons here are used for various functions. For example. Scratch mode. Okay, so another quite fun feature of my patch is you can do stuff like this. You can sample your voice in and turn it into a loop as part of the whole thing. In and turn it into a loop. Sample your voice in and turn it into a loop. Sample your voice. You can do the same things to it that you can do with beat. Sample your voice in and turn it into a loop. Okay, another thing you can do with this is this little keyboard here. You can record in key sequences, just jam out a sequence, and then record that in as sort of pitch and gate information and change the sounds and so on. So I've got a 4-bar loop running here at the moment. Just a minute. Yeah, another thing you can do is you can mix using other people's tracks or sections of them, and another useful tool to use for this is this assignable crossfader thing. So I've got a few old school loops which I didn't prepare earlier, someone else did. So let's have this running. So those are pretty much the main features as far as sound manipulation goes. But actually there are lots of other things which I've put into the patch to just make it a lot more usable. Because although you've got all this control, it can sometimes, for example, get really totally out of control. And if you're improvising, you know, in a busy club and there's people coming up to you trying to like shout at you and pour beer on your laptop, you need, it's quite easy to get distracted, and you suddenly find you'll have 4 channels up, and you'll have like effects going there. You'll have a synth bass line running and looping, and you'll be in some weird time signature, and it'll just be like ah. So I've got various macro functions. For example, the panic button. And if it all gets a bit too much, hit the panic button, and it bounces everything down to one channel, automatically deassigns everything else. So you've just got one sound going, and no one actually knows. You can't actually hear it happening, but it just suddenly makes everything really simple. So you can just mess around with that sound, queue up another track, load it in. Various other things like just a button for automatically assigning the mic to the nearest available channel, or the synth to the nearest available channel. So it's just like press that button, it works. Put the channel fader up, and you can use the mic. Otherwise, before I put those features in, I'd be there for like 15 to 30 seconds going like do this, do that, which is, it's okay if you're in the studio, but in a live, the whole idea of a live machine has got to be as instantaneous as possible. So those are the bits that actually make this patch really quite usable. You can just like press a button, right, do this big function right now, which makes it good. Time for a mashup.
Native Instruments Reactor 5 rocks, you know it. Native Instruments Reactor 5 rocks, you know it. Native Instruments 5 rocks, you know Reactor 5. Native Instruments Reactor 5 rocks, you know it. Native Instruments Reactor 5 rocks, you know it. Native Instruments Reactor 5 rocks, you know it. Native Instruments Reactor 5 rocks. Native Instruments Reactor 5 rocks, you know it. Native Instruments Reactor 5 Native rocks, you rocks, you rock. Native rocks, you rocks, you rocks, native rocks, you rocks, you native rocks, you rocks, you rocks. Native